All right. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Perfect. Think I'm seeing good thumbs up here from being able to hear me. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning over here in Bend, Oregon. And yeah, we're going to be talking about the nickel rounding feature. So I'm sure most of you are aware the pennies are no longer being minted as of 2025, the end of 2025, beginning January 2026. That's now. So pretty much what's going on is the government decided that we are no longer wanting to mint pennies. So that puts retailers in obviously difficult position like yourselves to, well, accept change, right? Cash and all that other kind of good stuff. You know, how do you hand out pennies to your customers for change if there isn't any? So Paladin designed some features to kind of help assist you guys in the short term. You know, as the pennies get more and more and harder to find, I'm sure we're going to have more and more features and more laws and rules and all that kind of good stuff will come out shortly to make that harder for us all, of course. So moving forward here, so we're going to talk a little bit about the background, Paladin's solution to the round down feature, our feature philosophy, our feature setup, processing returns, and invoices and reports. So we'll kind of talk about how to set it up, which should be available for you guys to set up on your own. Support's not required to set this up, although obviously if you need any help, totally shoot us a call on our support line and we're more than happy to help you guys out with that. Next up here, so again, the US Treasury is currently phasing out the minting of pennies. So what the implications of that are is they will remain legal tender for as long as they're in circulation. So it's just like the $2 bill. You know, you can accept the $2 bill right now, even though it's no longer being minted. And we're unfortunately going to see more and more difficulties and more pennies slowly disappear from our circulation as time goes, which is obviously going to make pricing and taxes very fun to deal with. So currently the solution that Paladin has for this is to round down to the nearest nickel. Now, there are a complete lack of federal guidance. So the US Treasury has left this up to the states to determine how to handle this. Well, unfortunately, the states haven't figured out yet what they want to do. So it puts all of us in a hard place to figure out how do we handle this in the meantime until some structure, law, and guidance comes out from the government. So right now, we as a company who are in all 50 states have to make a decision on how this works for every single one of our stores. And right now, the feature that rounds down to the nearest nickel, it will always be in the favor of your guys' customers. We didn't want to put you guys in a position where you're having to round up at the end of the transaction and explain that to a customer who may not be aware that pennies are being phased out. So currently, right now, it will round down to the nearest nickel. So what does that look like? So in this situation, this is all post-tax calculations. So how it works is at the end of your invoice, so you ring up the items, you hit the total button, you're in invoice and quote, you get to the total screen, you ask if the customer's paying with cash or card. They say I'm paying with cash. Pretty much you'll accept all the change. Paladin will look at all of the calculations, including tax, to say you have to give, you know, $3.35 back to the customer instead of $3.36, right? Because that'll include that penny. So you're able to review and monitor all the financial impact that's going to be viewed on this by the revenue block in Paladin Point of Sale in the comparative revenue report, and you can see the revenue type as pennies. So when we make these reports, we always break it out by just pennies. So you'll see it on the receipts, you'll see it on the reports. Is just this is Paladin's calculation to break this out. let's see here. I see a question that was asked, and I want to just address it real quick. Will you guys be developing a way to also round up and down? I would prefer to make that decision on our own. Yeah, totally understand the feedback. It's definitely not out of the question. You know, unfortunately, with the government kind of jumping onto this and surprising you and I both with this decision, we kind of had to just make an immediate solution to the problem here. We're definitely open to the feedback that's coming through. So with more and more stores asking for the possibility of rounding up or down, we're happy to take that into consideration and bring it up with our team management teams. And we can definitely develop something. If more and more stores want that feature, it's not out of the question. We're happy to support that if need be. Right now, though, at the moment, there isn't a way to flip it back and forth if you want to be able to do both rounding up and down. Right now, it's only down. I'm happy to bring it up. We can talk about it internally and see if that's something we want to do, but right at the moment, it's just round down. So moving forward here, yeah, so reporting with the revenue block, it's going to be in the comparative revenue report. You can kind of get an idea roughly on what that looks like in your reporting. Moving forward here, this is the setup portion of how you do this. So inside of Paladin Point of Sale, if you select File, Setup, and then there's the Invoice Store tab. At the bottom of the pane, so scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a little checkbox. That checkbox is called Round Down Invoice to Nearest Nickel on Cash Transactions. So just like the setting says, it's really important to note, I'm sure some of you are probably obviously thinking, this feature is for cash transactions only. So if Paladin is $3.46, some crazy number, and you're running a credit card, it's still going to accept that money. It's not going to round down for credit card transactions or anything like that. This is cash and cash only transactions. Next up, so what you're going to kind of see here on the screen is in the invoice and quote module in the checkout section, that pennies thing I was telling you guys about, that's what it looks like on Paladin. So your cashiers will know that the 4 pennies had been rounded and that your cash being accepted is $42.35 here in this example. And while this is an exact change, so no change needs to be given, we do see that pennies was rounded in this section here. Processing returns. So returns poses a very interesting problem for Paladin. So when we first do returns inside of Paladin, where does the rounding come in play? Because if you have multiple items on the invoice, rounding gets very, very confusing. So in this situation for returns, and again, if there is a change that's necessary, like 1047 in this example, it will round in the customer's favor again to the 1045. So the store will be absorbing the 2 cents there. If the returns all the items on the invoice and it comes to a 1050, a clean 1050, then there's no necessary rounding that occurs, and the store won't be absorbing any pennies there, just because obviously it's a clean round. Next up is invoices and reports. So just to kind of give you an idea of what this looks like on your transactions and your full sheet receipts here is, you'll see coupon rounded down to the nearest nickel. And if you look in the bottom right-hand corner where that little blue arrow is pointing, you'll see that the customer paid with cash, and we did a rounding of the pennies for 4 cents. This is really good because this is going to be included on your invoices. This is going to be included on your transaction reports. This is going to be included on your comparative revenue report and also on your GL summary. So some might be asking, well, how is it going to be reflected on my GL summary? Is it going to be on cash, or what's it going to be? Well, Paladin's using the coupon function here to properly round to the nearest nickel. So on the GL summary, it will show up under your coupon section in that section. So you got to make sure that that's set up correctly for your accounting software. By default, you must enter in your accounting software something. So coupons are going somewhere. Just do a quick check in your File Setup Accounting tab to make sure which accounts those are going into if you use external accounting software. Next up, this is what the transaction report looks like. So if you go recall the transaction report, it will kind of show you what it looks like. It'll tell a story here. So the story is this customer came in, purchased an item. It was 50, I believe that's 39.99, excuse me. They paid with cash. So post-tax, they have reduced the invoice by 4 cents. So they don't have to use any pennies to give back any type of change here. Next up is the comparative revenue report. So the comparative revenue report shows the amount as, again, previously stated, pennies. So under your cash sources there, you'll see your cash income, charge card, which is your credit card, check, and then obviously pennies. This section's kept track of kind of getting an idea of how many cash transactions you had to round and which potentially how much you had to eat when it comes to the pennies. Next up is the GL summary report. So like I said before, we're using the coupons redeemed section in the GL summary. So again, if you do maintain a data viewer in the GL summary report, you'll see in here that you had accepted 4 pennies as coupons redeemed. This does not count as an incoming cash source, so just be aware that this is going to be reported as the store paid 4 pennies for that transaction. That's pretty much it. The feature is very straightforward at the moment. You know, I'm sure as more laws get introduced state by state, more structure. I know that this comment here earlier had a question about rounding in both directions. This feature will get more and more fleshed out as it comes along. So there is going to be, you know, some changes that come along the way. Just pay attention. You know, if you open up Paladin for the first time, you'll see that little new features section at the beginning of Paladin. That's what we will use to communicate any new changes that are coming in the future. So just pay attention to that. If you have any questions, you're unsure, shoot us a call. We're more than happy to kind of give you an idea of where we're currently at on the features. And it looks like I have another question here. It says, what is the impact to our business with rounding down approach? So the question here is the impact is all based off of a single-digit dollars month to month, unless the majority of your business is cash. You know, if the majority of your business is cash, you know, you will see slightly more impact of this feature than if you do mostly credit card, which it seems like more and more customers are using credit cards and other things like that. So it's hard to say what the financial impact is for everyone, although I highly suspect it's not going to be a lot based off of the less and less times people are using cash. It's hard to say what the future is going to look like for everyone, but the financial impact is hard to predict at the moment. Let's see, the next question here is from Kimberly. Can we implement this when we feel it's necessary? Is that correct? Yep, absolutely. You should have the feature available to you now. So if you look in the section here before where you do file setup, invoice store, scroll all the way down to the bottom, you should see that checkbox there. Once you've enabled it, please make sure you restart Paladin on all your registered computers so they get that change. And yeah, you should be enabled and you should be available to start rounding now. It looks like Adam from Kentucky. Can we go ahead and start using the feature? Yep, absolutely. So yeah, just like Kimberly mentioned before, the feature should be available now. So if you guys want to go check it out, I highly recommend it. It's going to be a big help considering the difficulty of trying to manage no pennies right now. Cool. That looks like the end of the questions there. Was there any other questions at all, or was that? Oh, it looks like Melanie here's got another one. Do you enable the no nickel checkbox in all point of sales or just the server? It can be enabled on any single computer. It's what we call a universal setting change. So when you enable it on one computer, it doesn't have to be the server, it can be any of them. It should enable it for every computer once you restart Paladin. So yeah, make sure when you set that checkbox on one of them, you go walk around to all your other computers and you restart Paladin. You don't have to restart the whole computer, just Paladin. It should get that setting change. Perfect. Of course, no problem, Melanie. All right. Looks like Dan is saying it's not on our screen. If it's not on your screen, it's possible your Paladin didn't update for some reason. That could be due to poor internet, or maybe you're using an old build of Paladin by accident. Dana, I recommend shooting a call to our support team so they can look into why your Paladin maybe not have it. But it should be available to almost everyone now at this point. Cool. I'm just waiting for any other questions that might be coming through here, so don't hesitate to ask if you have any. I know this has been a lot for us recently. Sue, yeah, no problem. Yeah, it looks like, so right now Paladin only has the ability to round down. I was saying to a question that we had earlier, we're happy if more and more stores are requesting the ability to both round up and down. So it's totally a possibility that we can develop. Right now, it's not an option, but we are getting a ton of feedback about this feature, and it's something that we're willing to consider, definitely. Who do we direct your suggestion to of rounding up and down to? You know, that's a great question, Christina. Yeah, so what you can do if you want to direct your input for that, my personal opinion is don't waste your time shooting a call. Inside of Paladin, if you click the help button at the very top, you can submit a help request. And in the help request, it's just going to create a case on our side. Just put in the description, hey, you know, with the new penny feature coming out, you know, it's really important to our business for these reasons to have both the ability to round up and down. That won't waste your time for giving us a call, and it'll definitely get your point through. Somebody will see it. And if you're like, hey, I don't even need a call back, just type in there, don't need a call back, please close the case, and we'll take that feedback into consideration. Is there a deadline for when we have to implement that? Yeah, Adam, it's hard to say because right now we don't have any legal guidelines on when or why or all that kind of good stuff. So right now, it's really up to your discretion. So if your deadline should be, if I'm struggling to get pennies still, then the deadline is now, right? Whatever is easiest for you guys. If you still have plenty of pennies to give as a change, then it's up to you, whenever is best. Do you know what version we need for that update? Good question, Dana. I did at one point. I don't happen to remember the build number right off the top of my head. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, if you want to just shoot a request in, you know, everyone should have it, I believe, at the moment. So if you don't, there's probably just something wrong with your updates. But I'm sorry, I don't happen to know the version off the top of my head right now. David says, I would like to round up at 3 cents and round down at 2 cents. Great feedback, David. You know, I'm hearing a lot of feedback here about being able to round up at the end of the transactions. Definitely hear you guys. I will talk about it at some point with my management team. I'm happy to accept your guys' feedback and kind of take it up from there. Cool. Well, let's talk. That seems like the end of the questions there, but feel free to ask for the last few seconds here as I'm talking about the next up webinar. Stay ahead of retail technology. It's on February 3rd at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So please keep an eye out on the portal for the webinars. But for now, that's great. Thank you so much, guys. Again, if you have any questions or you want to share your feedback on the roundup feature, please submit a case through the help, submit a feedback or submit a help request, and we're more than happy to take that into consideration. If we end up building it, please keep an eye out on your new features page to see any updates that might be coming in the future for this feature. What is the checkbox that we need to check? Yeah, Karen, I'm going to go back on my slide deck here, and I'll kind of show you. It's in the file setup invoice store tab, and it should be all the way at the bottom. And it's this checkbox here called round down invoice total to the nearest nickel on cash transactions. Cool. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Looks like that's the end of our questions here. You guys all have a great day, and thank you so much for your feedback. And hopefully we can kind of get over this penny fiasco as soon as possible. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.